and welcome to Journeys and Journals. I'm Bernie Martin Beck, and I get to talk to folk who have lived history, who know history the best. Oh, wait till you meet Jim. He knows a whole lot. And Jim, your last name is?
Church.
Jim Church from where? You lived in Canyonville?
I lived in Canyonville for 42 years.
And what took you to Canyonville?
What did I do? I was a dairy farmer first, and my brother and I bottled and delivered milk and milked 50 cows a day for about 7 years. We had our milking machines, but it's still 50 cows is a lot of cows to milk twice a day.
You bet. And where did you deliver the milk?
Around in the little towns all around. We had a milk truck and we delivered to the door bottled milk, 5% milk.
5%? You're talking rich stuff.
Yeah, we had Guernsey cows.
And who'd you bring along with you today?
I brought a friend that lived over at the senior residence where I lived, Tom.
Tom, thank you so much. We welcome you back.
Thank you.
Now, your claim to fame has been that you love history.
Oh yes, I got associated with the Josephine County Historical Society a few years back and spent 5, 6, 10 years with them. Right now I'm retired from that part.
And retirement has been a new challenge.
Oh yes, very definitely. It's just every phase of life is a new challenge, I think.
But you're a youngster, right?
No, I'm just a few years younger than Jim.
Jim, you want to brag about your age?
Well, I don't understand how I'm living this long, but I feel pretty good about it, but 86 is not too bad, is it?
No,
to
not.
Still be able to walk and drive a car. I better cut that out. Don't let the
Yeah, don't let the.
Where were you born, Jim?
I was born in Boise, Idaho, and my cousin was Frank Church, the senator over there, and he was 2 years younger than me. And every time I went to Boise, we fought.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he was an orator and a statesman, and I was just a ordinary person, I guess.
Well, now there's another church in around these parts.
I don't think that's a relation to our family.
How about the one that moved you down here? Why did you move down to Southern Oregon?
My grandparents lived here in the 30s out on Fruitdale Drive. They had 10 acres and a big house and a bunch of sheep and everything. And when I got out of high school in 1941, I came out here and spent a couple months here in Grants Pass, and I really liked Grants Pass. Of course, 18 years old, well, any town's pretty good, but I played in the band down at the park and every Sunday and everything. I was a musician also.
You've got many hats, but you started out as one of a pair, right?
Uh-huh.
What's this twin story?
What?
You were a twin?
Yes, uh-huh. In my day, well, they dressed them alike and everything, and we were always dressed alike, and it was pretty bad sometimes.
It was pretty bad.
Uh-huh. Of course, we got away with a lot of things too,
How's that, Jim? How did you get by with stuff?
Well, one of us could go somewhere and then they'd go back and get something again, they were giving something away when they knew there was twins, If they didn't, well, if one of us was here and one was here, then the second one would never get anything. You've already been through this line, But,
Yep, I understand. All the twins watching us probably.
And when we moved around a lot, and I went through school in Michigan out of Detroit, and we moved from town to town. My father was a receiver of broken banks, and so we had to learn to fight. And of course, he's left-handed and I'm right-handed, so we got pretty good at fighting,
I'll bet that's the truth.
My father would buy us a pair of boxing gloves every Christmas, and
That probably saved the furniture at the house.
Oh, yeah, well, they didn't buy good furniture because that's what my mother said, that we ruined everything that they bought.
Well, now you were in business, your dad was in business.
Well, he was a banker, is what he was, you know, and I never saw him mow the lawn or anything. And by the time we were 8 years old, we were washing the dishes. My folks would get up from the table and go sit down and listen to the radio, and we washed the dishes alone or together or however it worked out, but we had to wash the dishes and clean up. And we did that until we were 18. That's probably why we left home.
When you left home, where'd you go?
We came to Grants Pass.
Yeah?
2 weeks after I took this aptitude test at the high school to see what I was good at, you know, and they said, the only thing we can find is you can play the saxophone. And I said, well, I don't want to be a musician. I said, I like to play, but I don't want to be a musician. So I said, I'm going out to my grandparents and go to school out there. And so I came out here in 1941, and it was June, and I spent 2 months in Grants Pass. Then I went up to school at Eugene.
Now, you wanted to go to the university.
Yeah, I went to Oregon University. They gave me all kinds of credit because I was a musician, but I wanted to be a mechanic, you know. And I did learn quite a bit there. They had some fine teachers there, and I learned to weld and a lot of important things. But airplanes weren't like they are now, you know. They were a little bit different.
Now, you're talking 1941?
Uh-huh.
My, I was 3 years old, man.
Yeah. But my father, he wasn't mechanical or anything. We all were scared when he grabbed a hold of a hammer, but my brother and I, we could do anything with our hands, but our older brother was just like my father. He couldn't do anything. Isn't that strange?
Yeah, so no wonder you ended up doing the dishes. Mom wouldn't let the other one in there.
Uh-huh.
Now, what was this wartime experience? You went to work in the...
We went to work for Boeing's, and then finally the draft board said that they were going to have to take us in, but they wanted us to go overseas right away because they needed B-17 mechanics over there.
Well, what did you do at Boeing?
I put engines on the planes.
Now, how much did they pay you at Boeing?
52 cents an hour. Or we got 58 cents if you worked the swing shift. My brother worked the swing shift, and I worked the first shift, and I could leave early, and my brother could check me out, and I could check him in, and they didn't know the difference.
Oh, that twin thing came to be very good, wasn't it?
One thing that worked out pretty good, you know.
Well, now, after this experience, we went to Europe.
Yeah, they shipped us right overseas, 30 days. They gave us 30 days basic training, but I only got 2 weeks because I didn't know the Army, and I got put on KP, you know.
You knew how to wash dishes.
No, I don't remember what I did, but this lieutenant came in, and I was laying on my bunk, and he said, okay, soldier, go out and pick up those cigarette butts. And I said, I don't smoke. And he said, well, go down to the kitchen then and start working for them. I think we peeled potatoes and everything.
I'll bet that.
And the cook said, you don't have to wash those pots and pans too good, he said, because we'll just cook what food we got in them with the rest of it, you know. I believe it.
That was the military. And then what did they do with you once you were in the military?
They shipped us from, naturally we went to Fort Lewis, but we were there 3 or 4 days, and they shipped it to Texas. We had wool uniforms and everything on, and it was 100 degrees down there. And when I got off the train, I went and stood underneath the shower with my uniform on. But we were there about 3 weeks, and then they shipped us to New York and put us on the Queen Elizabeth and zipped us over there 5 days, you know. So there was 20,000 men on that Queen Elizabeth going over.
So you went from into the lap of luxury.
Yeah, and when we got to England, where the base was, they were dropping bombs every night.
Yeah.
But when you're 20 years old, well, that doesn't bother you at all, you know.
Okay.
I asked I was in my bunk, and I asked one of the guys in there, I said, aren't we going to go out to the bomb shelter? And he said, I'm not getting out of this nice warm bed to go out there. It's cold out there.
So you were lucky there again.
Well, you could hear those bombs, and when they shut off, well, you'd count 1, 2, 3, and you could tell how far it was away, you know, when they'd come across and pass you.
When it came to the front door, you would duck.
Yeah, the next morning we'd go out and see what they hit, but they never hit much, you know, though. They were all those buzz bombs, you know, and come over and shut off and then drop. But they did bomb us there for about 3 months when they first got there.
Then what did you do?
We just repaired. They sent the new B-17s to where we were, and we got them ready for combat. When they built them, they didn't put in bulletproof glass, or they didn't put steel around the cockpit so it would deflect some of the bullets, and we put some of that in there and things like that. And then we did put new engines on them and things like that if they needed it.
Did they bring wounded planes back to you to be Nope, just new ones.
My brother did the same thing I did there, and we just stayed there. We were there for about 2 years. They started to send us over to the Battle of the Bulge, but we never got there. They didn't need us after all.
No, I imagine they needed mechanics a lot more than they needed.
Well, I don't know whether they did or not. Then I spent 8 months in France there shipping stuff to Germany after the war and maintaining some planes there.
Wow, we thank you. I've got a good 48-star flag right back there because I remember waving it for America.
Well, you know, the story that they was a paper that the veterans were so glad to get home, they got off and kissed the ground, you know. That wasn't the real reason. We got off the boat, we kissed the ground because we were glad to get off the boat. I was seasick for about 8, 9 days. I came back on an old freighter, and boy, it was awful.
So you traded the Queen Mary for the freighter.
Well, we weren't worth much then, you know.
Well, I welcome you back. Now that we're talking 1944.
40. Let's see. We got out in 45, I think, March.
Then what did you do?
I got on the bus at Fort Lewis and came down as far as Canyonville and got off at the ranch. The ranch is right on the old highway. And I said, I'm not ever going to get on a bus or a boat again.
Okay,
And
now,
that's it. And my brother and I started farming. And we weren't really farmers, but we learned pretty fast.
okay, now how big a spread did you have?
We had about 180 acres or something like that, and we later bought 320 next to us. There made about 500.
What did you raise on this property?
We raised mostly, well, when we first got there, we had about 15 or 20 acres of prunes and a prune dryer, so we had to raise prunes. And we had walnuts and all kinds of fruit and everything, and irrigated pasture, but we put up hay mostly for our cows, and we kept getting more cows. And
How many cows did you have?
well, we were in the milking business then, so we had about 75 cows, you know, and we tried to milk 50 cows all the time.
What did you do with all the milk?
We bottled it and delivered it around to the little towns.
Right? You had your own bottling company?
Yeah, we bought out an old dairy over on the coast, and we bought the bottling machine, and I bought 250 bottles, and they said, oh, take them all. And so I ended up with about 1,500 used bottles, you know, and that's it. Bought some bottle caps, and off we went.
The kind with the...
No, they were just snapped on, you know.
Right.
I still got about 4,000 or 5,000 of them.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, now, I can remember on a cold morning that the lid would be raised right up.
Yeah.
And you'd have a stack of cream about this tall coming out of the milk
Well,
bottle.
With that 5% milk, you could pour the cream off and whip it with a spoon, you know that. And of course, in those days, people had cream on all their fruit and everything anyway, you know, so that maybe they didn't drink all 5% milk, but...
And I can even remember people enjoying a spoonful of cream. Well, now, you had a big spread. You, what about the family?
family.
It's just you and your brother?
Just you and my brother. My father lived about 10 miles from us. He was a banker, and he'd retired, but the man in Myrtle Creek died, and so he got a job running the bank until they found someone to replace him, and he ended up there about 10 years as a banker there.
They didn't look very hurriedly.
No, and while we were overseas, he found this farm, and he wrote and told us, he said, I got a farm for you, and we'd saved all our money while we were overseas. We didn't spend any because lots of things you could sell, you know, and he said, I'll put some of your money down on it, and we wrote and told him, no, don't do it till we see it. And the next letter we said, I put your money down. And he didn't want us to be farmers, you know, or anything like that, but his last 5 years he spent on the farm, on the front porch, and he said, this is pretty good life after all.
Now, you and your brother share these quarters on the farm?
No, we had 2 houses there.
Okay, how far apart?
Oh, it was about probably 300 or 400 yards.
Way apart.
Yeah, his house is down by the barns, and this one is up the lane a ways.
These are twins who've run a separate life, right?
No, we were always doing things together. I mean, we worked together quite a bit.
In fact, when Tom told me about you, I said, will both twins be coming? And he said, I don't know, but maybe if your brother...
No, I said something, and he said, no, I don't want to.
Well, I'm so glad you came, Jim.
Well, I don't know whether I am or not.
Well, what was Myrtle Creek like when your dad came there? And
Well, there was about 2,000 or 3,000 people there, I guess, and they had a great big sawmill right in the middle of town. And my father was the manager of this state bank. It wasn't, it was a private bank. And then U.S. National came in and bought it, and they kept him on there. But when my father died, after I sold the dairy, we decided we'd get some beef cow. My brother said one day, how come we're working so hard? Get up at 3 in the morning and go to bed at 8 and get up at 3 and every day, 7 days a week. And so we sold the dairy, and he took a month off and went back east. And when he came back, I took a month off and went down to Mexico. And then we came back. Well, he said, I don't know what to do. He said, I haven't got anything to do. And so he got a job with the school over at Riddle, and I got a job with the post office. I didn't know anything about a post office, but I said, I know how to lick stamps, and that's about it.
Good.
Stamps were 4 cents then, so it was pretty easy. But they got to be 13 cents, and I told them, I don't know how to multiply 13.
now, how long did you stay with the post office?
25 years. I
Oh.
worked part-time and everything else, and they didn't want me to leave. They wanted to give me a post office and everything.
Oh, that wouldn't...
I did some foolish things in there, you know. Like one time I put a bar of soap in this fella that never took a bath in his box in the post office, and he filed a complaint with Eugene, and they sent a couple of inspectors down. They said, you're in trouble, and I said, well, you go out and talk to them. They went out, and when they came back, they said, don't you ever send us out there again. They said, it was the worst place they've ever been. They said there was food on the table that hadn't been cleaned off in 6 months. They said.
And he was a postal carrier?
No, it was a post office inspector, because they filed a complaint about me putting this bar of soap in the... When he came in, I said, everybody gets a free sample. And he said, I didn't see anyone else getting soap. But I met him down here in Grants Pass here just last year, one of the inspectors, and he said, they're still telling that story about that bar of soap you put in the box.
Have you heard this story before?
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Right.
I guess I wouldn't have thought.
Would you like to hear another one?
I'd love it.
Okay. I would do everything. I mean, whatever they wanted, I'd do. I mean, and so the boss there, he told me, he said, I want you to speak to the 2 women there at the counter. One was dressed real nice, and the other one had an old sweatshirt and jeans on. He said, I want her to dress up a little nicer. And I said, well, you're the boss. You should tell her. And he said, no, they won't like me. And I said, okay, I'll think of something. So I went over to the one that was dressed in a sweatshirt, and I said, doesn't Doris look nice over there? She's always so nice dressed and everything. And she said, oh, I've got 2 kids. I can't afford to do that. And I said, I'll tell you a little secret. I said, she buys her clothes at Sally's. And he said, where's Sally's? And I said, Salvation Army. and so she said, oh, I'll try that. And pretty soon she started looking pretty good. But she made the mistake of telling the other woman, she said, Jim told me you bought all your clothes at Salvation Army. So I was in pretty much trouble with the other one then.
I love your story. Thank you for sharing it. Now, people will remember you from the post office there in Canyon.
Well, I left there in the 80s, I think. But I quit once there because they had that big stink there at Myrtle Creek there. A woman came down there and I was keeping the books. And I told her, I said, we're $3,000 short. And she said, I'll take care of it, Jim. I'll take care of it. She was going to Reno every weekend. And now a couple of weeks later, well, I checked the books, and it was $8,000 short. And I said, I quit. And I walked out. I said, I'm through. I quit. And she said, you can't quit. And I did. And I walked out. And a few days later, they called me from Eugene, and they said, why did you quit the post office, Jim? And I said, that lady there is no rotten good. And they said, oh, you shouldn't say that about a woman. That's a terrible thing to say about a woman. And I said, send a couple of auditors down there. Maybe you might find out something. They came down and they found out that she'd stolen $8,000 or $9,000, and they fired her and everything. And they gave me a job in Canyonville then. They said, do you want to work in Canyonville? And I said, sure. And I went over there. And one day, well, this big shot from Eugene came in, and he said, where's Jim Church? And oh, he's back there working. And the boss said, I'm the boss here. You want to talk to me? And he said, no, I want to talk to Jim. And he came up and he said, I'm taking you over to lunch over at the cafe, Jim. Come on over. And I went over and he said, you know, he said, she was no rotten good.
So you did get...
And he said, I'll give you a post office, anything you want, he said. I want you to work for it. And I said, oh, I got a ranch. I haven't got time to do all that, I said.
Well, now, you said you were a musician. That's besides this?
Oh, yeah. I played in all the little dance bands around all the little towns, all up and down there, all the time in these little dance bands. And so that was one of the things.
What'd you play?
I played the trumpet and the saxophone.
Those are 2 different instruments.
Yeah, I knew most of the instruments anyway. I just was naturally musical, I guess, or something.
Would you ever play for the things in the park? And
Oh, yeah. I played in the Roseburg band. I can tell you a musical story. Would you like to hear music?
I'd love it.
Okay, that's the 4th of July, and we had this wonderful trumpet player. I played third trumpet. I wasn't that good on the trumpet, but he was egotistical, you know, and he criticized the director and he criticized the player. Don't play it that way. He didn't play it right and everything. But on the 4th of July, he said, we're going to have something special. Delbert here, the one that was a fine musician, he's going to play taps in front of the band. And then Jim's going to be a block away and he's going to play the echo. And he said, we'll put another guy 2 blocks away and play another echo there. So on the 4th of July, this fine musician got up and he made a mistake. And so a block away, I made the same mistake.
Oh.
And when I came back, the director said, that's the best I ever heard you play, Jim. But the fine musician, he wouldn't speak to me for about a month.
And this was downtown where?
In Myrtle Creek.
In Myrtle Creek. Oh, I love this story. So Roseburg was part of your world.
Yeah, and they had a big band in Roseburg that played a big band, and whenever anyone local needed musicians, or they always called me up, come in and play in the big band, you know. So I got to play with some celebrities too, you know.
Like who?
Oh, Red Skeleton and a lot of the other, some of Lawrence Welk people and things like that.
When they'd come in town, they'd have a pickup band.
Yeah, I could read music, you know, and another thing I can do is I can transpose any music, which is most people can't do, but I had 2 brothers that played the piano, you know, so I had to learn to transpose because saxophones aren't in the key of C. and so I could read the music and then transpose at the same time, and it's.
Now, have you heard him do this music? Is he
Yes,
still?
Jim plays once in a while for the retirement home.
Yeah, I'm
He
going
and
to
his
play.
brother, he
I'm going to
play-
play Christmas Day over there.
Oh, his brother plays the piano.
My brother plays the piano now. He used to play the accordion. When we went up to college, well, he played the accordion and I played the sax when we had a string bass, and the college hired us to play around the campus the first month they opened. I think we got $15 a piece to play up there.
I was just going to ask you, when you told me how much they paid you at Boeing.
But as a musician, I don't know, I probably made probably $140,000, $150,000 as a musician, just playing.
Oh.
Well, but that's 60 years.
And then you bought cows with it.
No, that was my money. And we worked that with the farm, bought that, you know.
Okay. And the money that you got from World War II went
Yeah.
into the farm.
When you were overseas, you were allowed to send home your base pay and 10%, you know. And so I sold my candy bars and my cigarettes and my shoes and pants and coat and everything else to make extra money.
Because you had a plan.
But all the GIs were that way. They had to make extra money, you know.
Well, I remember Deb Potts telling me a similar story, that while he was over there, he had sent his wife money. He didn't think he'd be coming back, but he'd bought a place, a mill, so that when he didn't come back, she'd have a place. Well, he came back and lived to be a ripe old 90 something.
I
don't
sent my
remember
mother
really.
from France. I sent my mother about 10 bottles of perfume, a real expensive perfume, because I could send that, you know. And I sent her- She had that all her life, that perfume.
And loved it. Well, I thank you so much, Jim,
You're
for
welcome.
coming. Thank you, Tom, for introducing me to Jim. This is just the best kind of news, and I want you to come back and share more stories.
Well, I've got a lot of them to tell, but I'm just an ordinary person.
Just an ordinary Oregonian. Huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, we sure are proud of you. Thank you very much for coming to Better Life Television. And Journeys and Journals is just a show about your neighbors and friends, and some good friends who introduced me to their neighbors. That's how I find my guests. So as we're expanding into new Eugene and area and Portland over to the coast, I'm going to need your help. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.